NOAA Ship Okeanos Explorer is the only U.S. federal vessel dedicated to exploring our largely unknown ocean. On this expedition, the ship is exploring the deepwater habitats offshore of Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina.
We're exploring the southeast U.S. continental margin, and a continental margin is the underwater extension of the continent. The continental margin is comprised of three what we call provinces. We have the shelf, the slope, and the rise, and each of these varies globally in depth and range, distance from shore, but almost every coastline has all three of those provinces. The province known as the continental shelf is what is exposed or drowned as sea level rises and falls. It extends from the shoreline to a depth of approximately 200 meters. And that's pretty much the depth that continental shelves extend globally. The continental slope is much steeper than either of the other two provinces. It can range in its gradient, how steep it is, from just a few degrees to being nearly vertical. The slope itself is where we find many submarine canyons that have cut into the rocks and the sediments below. The rise is at the foot of the continental slope. It is where the gradient changes from the steep continental slope to very flat. In fact, it's extremely flat in some areas. The continental margin off of North Carolina is a classic shelf, slope, rise continental margin. That classic margin is found in most of the waters around the globe. However, if you move south from there, offshore of South Carolina, Georgia, and even Florida, you see a very different type of margin. We see there a very shallow shelf, a little bit of a slope, we call it an upper slope, and then a very broad and nearly flat area that extends well offshore, and we call that the Blake Plateau. It ranges in depth from maybe 400 meters to over 1,000 meters, but it's very broad and quite flat. The reason we are here on this expedition is because there's tremendous interest by the scientific community to understand what's going on out there, not only along these submarine canyons on the slope from North Carolina to the northern part of South Carolina, but across and beyond the Blake Plateau. It is a very unexplored region of the U.S. waters. It's so big, it has not been even thoroughly mapped, so we're continuing to map when we can, and we hope to get a much better picture of what the features are out there. Once we see where features exist, different geologic features, we can then go visit particularly rugged areas, because that's where we expect to find these deep coral and sponge habitats, and that's what we hope to find on many of these dives. Geologically, we also don't know very much about what the rocks are, what the sediment distributions are across this region. We have some information, but we need a lot more information to thoroughly understand this region geologically and certainly biologically.